Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Monday Night Mike. I'm your host, John Quinn. And guys, we have a packed, loaded show for you tonight. Big news coming out on Friday. The Sea Dogs have hired a new head coach. His name is Greg Gilbert, and we're going to hear from him tonight. Of course, that news went out on Friday, blowing up the internet for the day and over the weekend. We hope you had a chance to talk about it with your family while you were celebrating Father's Day. I know it was the big topic around my barbecue this weekend. If you have any questions, comments, things you'd like to see on future shows, guys, please let us know in the comments here or tag us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I don't want to spend too much time because I do want to get to this Greg Gilbert interview. I know people have been waiting for it since it was announced on Friday that he'd be joining us on the show. But after the Greg Gilbert interview, please do stick around. We have an interview with Dawson Stairs as well. We're going to be catching up with him. He's been doing some training. He's actually in Nova Scotia right now, and he's been training with some fellow teammates in Cam McDonald and Alex Drover. So we'll hear all about that. Without further ado, though, I do want to jump into the Greg Gilbert interview. So let's get to it with the new coach of the St. John Sea Dogs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be joined by the new head coach of the St. John Sea Dogs, Greg Gilbert. Greg, welcome to the show and welcome to your new team.
Thanks very much for having me, John. I'm chomping at the bit to get going.
Well, we're all excited. Big news, obviously, breaking on Friday with the announcement of you coming in as the 8th coach in franchise history. Before we jump into the hockey stuff, to the fun stuff, I do just want to kind of get to know you on a more personal level. It's easy to look up your stats and goals and where you've coached and Stanley Cups and all that, but just on a personal side. Family, kids, grandkids, where do you live, hobbies, interests? Tell us a little bit about Greg Gilbert, the non-hockey guy.
Yeah, well, we're out in Ontario in Oakville right now. I've got 3 kids. My daughter, Lauren, my oldest boy, Dylan, and my youngest boy, Brendan. I have 3 grandkids, Stella, Hayden, and Ethan. So we're all fairly close by right now, but I'll be shipping out that way soon. So it's like I said, I'm anxious to get out there, but the family understands it's something you got to do, and it's part of the game.
Now, you're obviously a kind of lifelong hockey guy. Is it a hockey family as well? Did the kids play growing up, or are they still involved in the game?
My grandson plays. My oldest boy played rep hockey and semi-pro down the States for a little bit, and my youngest boy just played house league, so he was more of just a house league guy. He's a rugby player. My oldest boy was an outstanding lacrosse player. So,
oh, cool.
He went to school in the States for a little while, out in Davenport in Michigan, Grand Rapids. And like I said, my youngest son is big time rugby player. But with this thing going on, he's not playing this year. But my daughter's an equestrian. She was a rider when she was younger, and now she's got a couple of horses, and she's looking after them herself.
Wow, so definitely a sports family. I was looking up photos and stuff to try to plan the release for Friday, and one of the ones I found was you and your wife and kids at the '94 Stanley Cup Parade in New York. Did your kids kind of know at the time it was a big deal, or is it the sort of thing they look back now and go, "Oh wow, I didn't really realize it. We were in New York City and we won the Stanley Cup and everything."
Yeah, no, they were pretty young at the time, so they were just having fun with it. I think they did realize a little bit what was going on, but it was a great day, great experience with the Rangers organization. I remember the day was pretty hot too, so we were doing a lot of sweating, and it wasn't because we were out of shape. So,
no, I can't imagine.
But it was what a scene. I mean, they sent us DVDs and videos of it, and there's people that are 15, 20 stories up, standing on the ledge, throwing things down at you. And
wow,
it was just amazing. I think I don't know the numbers. I think it was up over 1 million people.
Wow.
They lined the Avenue of Heroes or Champions. I'm sorry, Avenue of Champions, and many of the New York teams have gone down there, and we were very fortunate to be one of them. But what a great experience!
That's incredible. No, there's some great photos, and we will touch on that kind of team a little later on in the interview. But anyone watching, definitely check out Google some of those photos. There's some great ones. Some ones you're looking pretty hip there in the parade. Have some sunglasses on that you can definitely check out.
Yeah, we were pretty tired.
Yeah,
we were a little worn down.
Sunglasses were mandatory, I'm sure. I want to go back all the way to your NHL playing days and your rookie season in the NHL, you end up winning the cup.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that experience. I mean, obviously a huge moment your first year in the league, and then you end up winning kind of the grand prize of them all.
Yeah, well, and first and foremost, getting drafted by the Islanders, I was very fortunate. But you looked at their lineup as a young kid, and you thought you're never going to have the opportunity to crack that lineup with them already winning 2 championships and pretty much keeping the whole core and everybody together for those years. So, I had to start down in the old Central League in Indianapolis with the Checkers and got off to a really good start. And the Islanders felt that I was going to be ready to come in, maybe not play every night when I first got there, but they thought that I was going to be capable of doing the job that they were going to ask of me. And I did get called up. I think it was after 27 games in the old Central League, and then I think I played 51 games that year on the island. But it was just a great experience and a dream come true, and especially cracking the lineup of a team like that where they had to move a couple guys out to make a spot, and they brought myself, and I think later on they brought Gordy Deneen up later in the season, things like that too. So there was a bunch of us who were chomping at the bit to get there and get up there and have the opportunity to play in the National League, which was ultimately our dream.
And a lot of guys talk about, they might play 15, 20, 25 years and they never even make a finals. And in your first 2 seasons, you end up making 2 finals, winning 2 Stanley Cups. And in the second year, you guys defeated the Oilers, and you play a guy named Wayne Gretzky. Guy has 196 points in that season. Well,
Yeah.
what was that like going in and you're kind of playing the best player in the world at that point?
Well, I mean, their whole team was outstanding, and Gretzky obviously was, the top end leader of that hockey club. I mean, you got to remember they had the Messiers and the Andersons and the Currys and Grant Fuhr and net. I mean, you go right down the list, and they were some hockey club, and they were still young, and I myself being young, but the veteran leadership and the role players on that Islander team was something that was very special also. And we took them that year, but they learned their lesson, and obviously they took us out in 95 games the following year in Edmonton. So they learned their lesson, and the old story was where Gretzky and those guys were walking out after Game 4 in the Island, and they looked in the dressing room, and there was guys laying on the floor with ice bags and just covered in ice and rubbing down the bumps and bruises, and from that moment on, they realized what it took to win, and obviously they gave it to us the following season. But what a great experience. Unfortunately, we lost that fifth one, but life goes on. But it was a lot of fun and great years there.
Now, does that sort of change your outlook on the game when you show up and your dream is obviously to make the NHL and then you win the grand prize back-to-back years, your first 2 years, and you're double champion? Does that kind of the rest of your career? Are you just kind of putting it on cruise control, or do you still have that fire? You still want to win those cups?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like getting bit, and you win once, you want to win twice. You win twice, you want to win 3 times, and so on. And there's been a bunch of guys on that Islander hockey club. I mean, you look at Brian Trottier, who won the 4 cups on the island. Then he went to Pittsburgh. I think he won a few more. So no, it's something that once you're bit from that championship feeling, you want to be there every year and you want to win it every year. And I think that's what I carried with me when I did leave the Islanders was that championship feeling. I wanted it back, and every year you go in, you always think you have an opportunity. And obviously, there's some teams where they might be in a rebuilding phase or what have you. But for the most part, every season that you go in, you want to be a champion, and you do what you have to do. Not only as an individual but as a team to reach that point and give yourself that opportunity to get another piece of hardware and another ring. And that's in me. That's in a lot of people and a lot of players, and that's what we're going to have to try to create in St. John with the Sea Dogs.
Now, flash forward, and we mentioned this briefly about the '94 Rangers. Just going through that roster, I mean, this is more kind of my time period when I'm remembering games of hockey. I was 8 at the time, but I definitely remember this finals, and obviously they're playing Vancouver, and I was a big Pavel Bure fan. But like looking through this lineup of Messier, you mentioned playing against before, Brian Leetch. So many guys that have gone now into broadcasting, like Kyprios and Eddie Olchuk, and like you have guys like Richter and Net and Tony Amonte and great American players. And like, did you guys realize at the team that this was, looking back, it looks like an all-star team of just, they took the Eastern Conference all-stars and put them in Rangers jerseys?
Yeah, and a couple of those guys, Amonte was moved to Chicago, and I think he was in part of the deal for bringing Steve Larmer over. They moved Mike Gardner and a few other guys, James Patrick. They were all outstanding hockey players, but obviously the management felt that there was other pieces that were needed. And, that's when, Mike's always believed that to win championships, you got to have people that have won championships in the dressing room. And, he didn't have that in Philly, even though he had some unbelievable teams in Philly that did go to the finals, but never overcame the final hurdle. But you look at that dressing room and the people that Mike picked up. I signed as a free agent, having won a cup, and you got Mess there. You got, he brings in Anderson, and he's got Kevin Lowe there. You go right down the list of these guys that have won championships. Jeff Bukaboom. I can go right down the list of these guys. That's and a lot of Edmonton guys. He brought in some of his Chicago guys. He brought in Larms and myself and Mike Hudson and Brian Noonan and obviously Stephane Matteau. The famous Matteau overtime goal. So,
yeah.
But he brought in people that he was familiar with, and when we all got together in that dressing room, it came together pretty quick because you looked around and everybody in that dressing room knew that every piece of the puzzle was there. And they knew that because of our experience outside of a couple guys, everybody knew exactly what their job was going to be. And every night you went into a game, you had that opportunity to win and be successful. And I think that's where our confidence really started to grow through the course of the season was the additions that were made, the speed at which the team came together and started to play as a cohesive group. We felt really very strong going into the postseason that we had a great chance to come out, break the curse, and walk out of there with the cup.
Now, was this? I'm going by memory here. I didn't have this one in my notes, but this was the Messier guarantee, right?
That's correct. Game 6 in Jersey, yeah.
Game 6 against Jersey. What's that like on being on that team when the captain steps up and puts the guarantee on that? Like usually, you speak kind of in platitudes around, we're going to do our best and we have all the tools we need to win. But for someone to go up and say, I guarantee we're going to win the game, what's that like being on that team?
Well, I think it's it was a sign of leadership by Mess because we had been I don't want to say stumbling, but we weren't at our best, and we knew, we were towing the line. We had to get in there. We were sitting on the edge of not going to where we wanted to go to, and Mess could read that, and him coming out and saying that wasn't so much as bragging or boasting, but it was a wake up call for the rest of us that when our leader says something like that, we got to fall in the line. We got to do something extraordinary. And Mess comes up with a hat trick that night, I think. But everybody from Ricky on out was doing their job and battling as hard as they could just to get that one win. That was our focus, was that one win to get back home for Game 7. And as we all know, Game 7 was quite the battle too, and went into overtime. But what a series. It was an outstanding series. It was a battle every night for every inch of ice. And that's the way the old game was. And, it was fun to be a part of. Mess calling that was, it was a wake-up call for the rest of us. And we woke up.
Very cool. Now, you end up obviously winning the cup that year against Vancouver. So your 3 cups are against Vancouver, and Edmonton. I'm surprised you're even allowed in Canada anymore. That you've been responsible for 3 Canadian teams losing the cups, especially poor Vancouver. I can't imagine you can find a table at a restaurant in BC these days.
Well, I don't get out there very often.
That's
so
probably,
I don't really have to worry about that.
I'm sure that's a plan on your part. And then as well, the other little tidbit, the cool piece of trivia, and this kind of went out after you were signed, but you're the only guy to win a cup with the Islanders and the Rangers. Did you feel it at all with the Rangers that you were kind of on the other side? Obviously the 2 teams don't like each other, but did you feel that animosity at all?
No, not whatsoever. I spent 7 or 8 years in the islands, so the great thing about it was there was a huge rivalry. There's no question about it. We hated going to Madison Square in the early 80s, and they hated coming into Long Island. And, the fan base was about 50-50 in each building. So you had your supporters, you had your naysayers and your opposition fans in both buildings. So, but what a rivalry. But no, you know what? It was nice going back as a Ranger into Long Island. And even though I was the enemy now, the people on Long Island were great. They were outstanding and so friendly, and great to see me when I got back there even though it was with a Rangers jersey, and even when I was back with the Blackhawks going into Long Island. But the fan base there in Long Island was outstanding and very supportive, very friendly. And it was the same in Madison Square. The fans would do anything They wanted to win. Their passion was there to win championships, and I was fortunate to be a part of both organizations.
No, that's incredible. Yeah, you played for some pretty storied teams in your career. You were pretty lucky. Uh,
Very.
now I want to flash forward to kind of the reason you're here, both on this call and in St. John, but your coaching career. You make your debut in the AHL with the Ice Cats. What made you want to try your hand at coaching? I mean, you took a little time off, obviously, but what made you want to come back and get behind the bench?
Well, actually, I retired that summer, the summer of '96, and I had to retire from back injury, and it was unfortunate, but I wanted to stay in the game. And in St. Louis organization, we had great leadership there with Larry Plow and I think John Ferguson was there as an assistant GM to Larry, and Mike obviously as the coach, and Mike was going to bring Jimmy Roberts up, who was the coach in Worcester before I took over. And so Jimmy came up, and Mike asked me if I'd be interested in getting right behind the bench, and I did. And I had great help there with an assistant, Paul Picard, great guy, and won Coach of the Year there in the first year, which was a team thing because we had a great group of kids. They worked hard. They did their best to execute what they could and how we were going to play. So the credit goes to them as much as it does to the coaching staff. But I wanted to get back in there. I had a passion for the game. I was a student of the game when I played. I build books on teams and guys that I was playing against and see what their intricacies were and their little tricks they like to pull. And the more knowledge I had, the better I was prepared to face them. So, and as a coach, I think that fell right into it. You're breaking down opposition teams. You're trying to give your team the best opportunity you can to win by knowing what they're going to see and how we're going to counteract it, but also how to build our team, how to focus on our team, and that's what I like to do most. I mean, you have that information for your opposition that you're playing, but I like to focus on our hockey club and how we're going to play, because if we play the right way, we do the right things, we're going to win hockey games, and that's the first thing I want our players to know is it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard work. There's some things we got to work on. We've got some very skilled players, no question. We can score goals, and now we've got to learn to play without the puck a little bit, without taking anything away from the offense. And it's not hard to do. It's just a matter of buying into it and learning how to execute the right way. And when that happens, hopefully championships follow.
Championships seem to have followed you throughout large parts of your career, so I'd say that's very much a possibility. Now, you end up winning AHL Coach of the Year. Was that in your first season in Worcester?
That's correct, yes.
Again, just going back to your first year in the NHL, you win the Stanley Cup. Your first year of coaching, you win the Coach of the Year. Is that just a coincidence, or is that kind of what do you credit that success to?
Well, I think everything is team oriented, to be quite honest with you. And as I said, in Worcester, when I took over as a coach, I had a great assistant in Paul Picard, who was a big help. And like I said, we had a great group of kids. I mean, they worked their backsides off, and we won 106 points, 108 points in the regular season that year, I think something. But it's, to me, winning something like that is all team oriented. It's the players, it's the coaches, it's the trainers. Everybody's a piece of it. It's not just one individual. And the same thing when I won OHL Coach of the Year in Saginaw. It's the group of players. It's the coaching staff and the trainers that put the work in. It's not just one person. So I'm very grateful to have had that opportunity to win those. And it's the last thing on my mind right now is winning another one of those. I want to get people to where they want to be. I want to make our players the best players they can be, because that's what they want. That's what they need to help with. And that's what our job as coaches is to make them better, not only as individuals, but as a team. And the stronger we can make them in both those instances, the better hockey club we're going to have. And like I said before, the better opportunity we're going to have at winning championships.
And the Ice Cats would have played, I believe, the same conference as the St. John Flames at the time. Did you make many trips to St. John? Do you remember?
Oh,
Obviously,
yeah.
you're going to different cities every week, but
Oh, yeah.
any memories of St. John?
Oh, yeah. Always, yeah. Yeah, in the middle of winter, coming up the logging road through Maine, to cross the border, which, the bus barely fit on the road. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a great city. The Flames organization there was supported with great passionate fans, and they're the same fans now that are are rooting the Sea Dogs on, and we want to do well by them and do great by them. So they're always there for our support. We got to support them on and off the ice. So, but great city. We used to do the tour up there. You go into St. John, Freddie, and then maybe over to the Rock to play the Leafs, and then you'd be back over and heading for that 9.5 hour bus trip home.
No, thank you. Now, speaking of the Flames, you end up making your NHL debut as a coach with the Flames.
Yeah.
What was it like being back in the NHL after having been there 15 seasons as a player, and now you're there behind the bench? Had much changed in the handful of years since you'd been gone? What was that like being back?
Well, I mean, going from player to an assistant coach under Donnie Hay there when I first got to Calgary was good. That's the path I wanted to go. To be quite honest with you, I didn't want to take over the head job uh, right away. Donnie was doing a great job. He was a heck of a coach, and it was a quick change. And my plan as an individual was I wanted to spend a few years behind the bench as an assistant, and see how everything was run and how the interactions go with upper management and all that stuff. And I ended up taking the job. So it is what it is. I was only there a year and a half, maybe as the head coach, and then was let go. So, but the one thing I've noticed, John, is at every level, whether it be minor hockey players coming into junior or junior hockey players going into pro, whether it be the National League or the American League, they all have things to learn. And as you grow older and you get up in age, every step that you make as a player into a different level league is a step and a half, 2 steps quicker. And it's not just a physical thing; it's the thinking aspect of the game. You have to think that much quicker. So, the one thing I noticed is in the National Hockey League when I first got there is those guys needed to learn. Like there were still things that the players needed to learn, and not just so much about the systems, but just about the little dynamics of the game. How to read plays, how to kind of have that sixth sense of seeing what's going to happen before it actually does. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think players, whether it be the National League or any league under that, still has room to learn. And the guys that don't want to learn are usually the guys that spend the least amount of time.
Now, one guy I'm sure who had a little bit to learn was a young rookie named Jeff Cowan in his first full season with the Flames. Any memories of Jeff during your
Yeah.
your,
Oh,
your
yes.
your year
Yeah.
there in
Yeah.
Calgary?
Yeah. 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 There was an incident there in practice one day, but he was going to leave the ice. He was pretty frustrated, pretty upset. Um, the best decision for him was just to stay on and keep going and work through it, and he did. And it made him look better, but it's also a learning lesson for a young player that you got to battle through some of these things. It could have been a test to see what the reaction was going to be, and he stayed on the ice, which was the manly thing and the proper thing to do, the professional thing to do. But Jeff was a hardworking kid. I mean, he would do anything that you asked of him. I mean, he was there for his teammates. He dropped the mitts when he had to support his teammates if they were in trouble and protect himself, obviously. But he could skate. He was a big, strong forward. He went to the tough areas. He's one of those guys that you love to have in your team because they're fearless, and they're not trying to find a way to get there second for a loose puck. They want to get there first and take the hit to make the play and gain possession. And vice versa defensively. He was not afraid of laying people out when he had to. And, you know what? That's one of those players that you want on your bench, and you're looking at his number, and you're never afraid to call him to jump over in any situation.
And then on the opposite, not the opposite side, but another coach you have a connection with. You also coached assistant coach Stefan Legion when you were with the Ice Dogs in Mississauga. Any words about Steph during
Oh
your time there?
yeah, Steph was, and the one thing I've got to say with the parallels with those two guys, Steph was maybe a little bit more skilled, obviously not as big as Jeff.
He'll hate hearing that, but
Pardon me.
he'll hate hearing that.
Well, I'm just stating the obvious, but anyway. But real highly skilled, and the one parallel that both those players had, or between those players, was their work ethics were outstanding. And whether it be practice or a game or even just a mess around scrimmage or something that the guys were having fun with, they were working. They played to win in everything that they did, and Steph was no different. He could score goals, he could kill penalties. He'd finish checks against bigger players or take hits from bigger players to make the play. And again, he's one of those players that you love seeing in front of you, and the number on the back, the name on the back, because you can use them in any situation. So there's so many similarities between those two gentlemen, even though they're kind of different style players. But the work ethic and the compete levels were second to none.
I'm excited for that reunion when the three of you get together finally in person. I'm really
Yeah,
looking
that'd be
forward to
nice.
that. I'll try and get the camera there for that one. I do want to touch just a little bit on your time with Saginaw. You talked about winning OHL Coach of the Year there.
Yeah.
But in going through the stats and rosters and stuff, I actually found two players who ended up being Sea Dogs who came from Saginaw in Sam Poborozniak and Chase Stewart, who was part of our
Yep.
2017 President Cup team. Obviously, a long time ago, and players, and it may have only been a season or two, but any memories about those guys who kind of winded up being
Yeah, Sam
crucial
was a
parts?
good field little player. I mean, he was a hardworking kid. He just wasn't going to fit in with some of the people that we had there. And he went on to have a decent career, and Chase obviously, Chase left the team and went home. There was supposedly some personal issues and never came back. So we traded his rights out to St. John, and he ended up showing up. So he had a good run there, which I'm very happy for him. But it was just those situations that happen in junior hockey, and it's unfortunate that things like that have to happen, but they do. You have to deal with them, and the team moves on and the players move on, and hopefully everybody has a good run.
Yeah, no, they had good experiences here in St. John. I know Sam, I think, was first or second in points during our kind of prior to our cup year, and then Chase was a big part of that cup season, playing that kind of
Yeah.
enforcer role. Now, after you're finished with your time in Saginaw and you wind up in the broadcast realm, talk a little bit about your time with SiriusXM and TSN, and kind of were you more nervous making your debut on the radio than you were maybe your NHL debut or
No,
your coaching
gosh, no,
debut?
I got a face for radio, so. But really, all that was ever really asked of you is doing the same things that you do as a coach. I mean, you break down teams, you break down opposition players, you look at the makeup of certain players that they're talking about that day. Sirius was a little different because we jump around the league a little more and talk about different things, but that was pretty much in studio. And then I did Leafs lunch every once in a while, but the TSN Leafs hockey on 1050, I guess it was TSN. We would do half the games of the Leafs, so we do half the road and half the home games. So and doing that is more or less being the analyst, sitting up in the press box, and you're breaking down the game, and you're not calling the game, but you're doing the in between periods breakdown of that period, and not only the Leafs but the opposition. So the analyst side of it is very much like being a coach. You're breaking down opposition players, the systems, what each team has to do to be better against the other. So you're reading the game just like you would be behind the bench. The only thing you're not doing is standing behind the bench, pushing players onto the ice to get going. So that's really the only difference. It was 2 years that I'm very thankful for with TSN that I had that opportunity to coach, but only be up in the stands coaching and do all those little things that you do when you're in your office watching video.
Very cool. I can't think there's too many kind of corners of the game now that you haven't covered in your career. That's pretty impressive.
Well, I've never been a goalie.
That's
And I don't plan on it now.
Goalies are weird. You don't want to be a goalie.
No.
So now the opportunity obviously comes up for the Sea Dogs. What made you kind of jump at that chance? What brought you back into the coaching fold?
Well, because I've never lost the passion for it. I love being on the ice in practices, and I love working with players as a team, as individuals, and I love winning. I've got a passion to win, and being outside the game, so to speak, in that aspect where you're not behind the bench as a coach, you don't lose it, but you still have that fire burning in you where you want to be down there, you want to be close to the players, you want to help them get better, and you want to win. And they all want to win. It's just what are we going to be committed to doing so that we do. There's things that championships teams do that others don't, and that fire, like I said, has never left me. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to get back behind the bench in St. John and work with those two young men that were great players for me, and get these guys going and get them winning hockey games, get them believing in themselves, and hopefully get to that first and foremost the championship round in the Quebec League, but secondly the Memorial Cup.
And I'll finish here, Greg, with just sort of an open-ended question. But how would you describe yourself as a coach? As much detail as you want to get into in terms of X's and O's, or as kind of hypothetical as you want to get. But how would you? Someone on the street asks you, "Hey, you're a coach. What kind of coach are you?"
Well, I expect a lot from my players. I've learned a lot over my coaching career that you can't yell and scream. I mean, I remember being a player, listening to somebody that yelled and screamed all the time, and they're tuned out very quickly. And there's other ways to communicate and get the point across and get the lesson across. But I am a patient coach. There's times to be patient. There's times not to be patient, obviously. But in major junior, players are going to make mistakes. I mean, they're young. They're going through that process, and it's our job as a coaching staff to make them better and learn how to do the things the right way. And I've never wanted to turn a team into or a player into a robot. I've always felt that as a coach and a coaching staff, our job is to make the players better in the way that whenever they're out on the ice in those situations, they make the right situation or right decisions at the right time in a fast game. And when they do that, their confidence takes off because their belief in knowing that they're going to make the right play majority of the time is a really big part of confidence. So, I like to teach them all aspects of the game. I think anybody is capable of playing any position at any time, except goalies, like you said. They're their own breed. They can sit in a different room as far as I'm concerned. But I'm kidding. But no, seriously, the more situations all players can be used in, the better they become. And I used to. There's times where we had some teams that we had some skilled players. And one of the ones that came to mind to me was Patrick O'Sullivan when I first went into Mississauga. And Sully was just an offensive guy, like just barely come back over the red line and let everybody else do the work and fire the puck to me, and then I'm going to go on a breakaway. And I had to break him from that. But then he became one of my best penalty killers and my best 200-foot player. He could score, he could set up, he could kill penalties. He was a late game specialist for face-offs and shutting people down. And when your skill players can do that, boy, you're going to be a hard team to beat.
Fantastic. Well, Greg, thanks so much for joining us and being so generous with your time. Any last words, shout outs, anything like that? The grandkids watching, anything? Any last words you wanted to get out before you signed off?
No, you know what? I'm just very anxious to get out there and meet all the people in the organization and the fans and get on the ice. To be quite honest with you, and I hope everybody's safe and healthy out there and coping well with this situation. And hopefully they find an answer to it and we can get back on the ice, get going, and get back to normalcy and start having some fun.
Well, thank you, Greg. Your excitement and enthusiasm for the upcoming season is definitely shared by staff, players, and fans alike, and we can't wait to meet you here in St. John.
Well, likewise, Sean. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you. That was Greg Gilbert, everyone, the new head coach of the St. John Sea Dogs. Be sure to give a shout out online over social. Send us a note, email, whatever it is, welcoming Greg to the team and to our fine city. Preview of next week, fingers crossed. I do believe we have Nathan Beaulieu lined up, legendary defenseman of the St. John Sea Dogs and 2011 Memorial Cup champion with the Sea Dogs as well. Now an NHLer. He'll be joining us, hopefully, fingers crossed. That one's like 99% sure thing. If it's not next week, it'll be sometime in the weeks to come. But do drop us a note, guys, in the chat or send us a message on social of a guest that you'd like to see on an upcoming episode of Monday Night Mic'd. We do plan on keeping the show going as long as you're tuning in. And as long as we have guests, once we make it through the 300 or so people that have played in Sea Dogs history, we'll have to resort to, interviewing the ticket guy in the office or someone like that. So keep tuning in as long as the show is good. I'll say that. For our next guest, we do have current player Dawson Stairs, guys. Thank you again to Greg Gilbert, but I do want to get to our next interview with Dawson. Fans, it's my pleasure to be joined at this time by number 67 of your St. John Sea Dogs, Dawson Stairs. Dawson, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, John.
Dawson, just a quick game of catch-up here. How you been spending your time these last few months of quarantine and now I guess a little bit more freedom, but how you been spending your days?
Just trying to find stuff, keep active, keep busy, just go along with my days so I don't like get out of routine when the season starts back up.
Now, I know a lot of guys have been setting up home gyms or outdoor gyms or, lifting soup cans. How have you been keeping the workouts a regular thing?
I got lucky. Like my parents, they bought like a little home gym. Then we set that up in the basement. So I've been using that for a little while, and then going out on runs at like parks or something, just any area I can get the work in.
Nice, nice. And we were talking just before the interview started here, but you've actually been in Nova Scotia the last little while doing some training with a couple fellow Sea Dogs. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, no, I got here not too long ago, and few guys, just a bunch of guys in the league, I guess, and then a couple guys on our team, Alex Drover and Cam McDonald. So been working out with them, skating with them. It's a great time here, and I think I'm going to learn lots.
Learn lots. And does that include on ice stuff at all, or just?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
lots like just skill ice sessions and skating ice sessions. So
And that's probably been the longest you've gone in your life without being on the ice, eh? The past 3 months or so.
100%. Like I thought I was going to forget how to play hockey.
Yeah, that first step onto the ice, you're like, am I going to fall over? But
Yeah, it scared me.
I'm sure it all came back pretty quick. Now, in terms of the school year, did you have you finished high school? I'm terrible with birth dates,
Yeah,
but you did graduate from high school, and did you have
yeah,
any sort of graduation celebrations? I saw pictures and stuff flying around Instagram,
yeah.
etc.
Just like with my friends and stuff, we just made like a few prom, like graduation parties, just 10 people maybe max, something like that. So, and then just stopped at school to get like my cap and gown and a picture. So
Nice. And were your parents one of the families to put the giant sign out in your front lawn? I see those of them walking around my neighborhood. A proud home of a KVHS grad or something. Did they
all
go that extra mile?
no, my parents didn't put one up, but the school, they stopped by one morning and stuck one in my grass, and I came home later that day and didn't even see it. So, but,
I'm sure you were glad your parents didn't set one up at least. Um,
yeah,
I do want to go back to your rookie season with the Sea Dogs. You're drafted to the Sea Dogs, but then you can't really play with the team, not to any fault of your own. It wasn't a skill thing, or it didn't make the team or anything. But we just had too many players from your age group, and with league restrictions, we could only have 16-year-olds in the lineup. Depending on injuries, etc., we could have a little bit more at different points of the season. But at the time, you couldn't be on the team due to a numbers game, and you kind of had to make the sacrifice of playing in Campbellton and in Junior A. Can you talk about that season and kind of the up and downs? And you did obviously eventually make your debut with the Sea Dogs that season, but was it hard being on the outside looking in?
yeah, for sure. Like it's just hard switching back and forth all the time, just between skill levels and everything. But I found after I did it a couple times, like I just got that balance in. And whether I was up in the queue or down in Junior A, like I knew what I had to do to play like my best. So
Fantastic. And then your season, most recent season, 1920 that just passed, you had a pretty good increase in goal production, putting away 17 this year. Can you talk about this season and maybe what changed for you, what was different, or how you felt about your performance this year?
I think for me, like I was kind of nervous just coming into the season, not knowing like how well I'd do. But I think just starting off with like a couple goals, a few points, like that helped me out a lot and like get confident in myself. And just I think from that point, like I was able to carry on with my play throughout the entire year.
And one thing, and I'm guilty of this, I asked you this when you first showed up. Your last name is Stairs and you're from Fredericton, but how sick are you of being asked? Is it a daily occurrence? Is it down to a weekly, maybe even a monthly, but of being related to Matt Stairs? How often do you get asked that?
Uh, well, during quarantine, none. So it's pretty good. But other than that, usually every second day or something like that.
Every
So
second day. Being an athlete too doesn't help immediately. They would just draw the
a lot of
comparison.
people assume it, and I'm always there like, nope. And they have to ask me it again because they're surprised.
No, I mean Matt Stairs, the baseball player.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, no relation. And on the same thread of Fredericton, we obviously you played the most recent season with Josh Lawrence, also from Fredericton, and now Peter Reynolds being signed to the team. Can you talk about kind of how cool that is to have this little core of Fredericton guys who are now playing for a St. John team?
For sure, yeah, no, that's it's pretty cool. Like Fredericton, it's not like a huge place, so having a couple guys like I grew up playing on the same team with them or against them, like there was always a lot of competition between all of us. So it's nice that now like we're all on the same team and we just get to play on the ice together wearing the same jersey.
That's awesome. And for the upcoming year, no hard deadlines or dates or anything set yet for when that's going to start, but we're hopeful it's going to be sooner than later. But personal goals or team goals for you? Obviously, a big year coming up the next few years for the team, but personal goals for you?
I would say for sure put up like 40 points maybe next year. Say that's one of my personal goals, and definitely be like a key player on our team, just someone you can use in all situations.
Awesome. I like to hear it. So I do have a little fun game planned for us here. I played one with Brady and your compatriot from Fredericton, Josh. Explained to me some hockey slang, but I got a little this or that game for you. I'm going to name two things, Dawson, and you tell me which one you prefer, if it's this or that, and I might get you to explain your reasoning behind that. So we'll start out with an easy one. There's no right or wrong answers, but I will judge you accordingly. The first one, horror movies or comedy movies?
Uh, Comedy movies, I guess.
Comedy, and what have been your big ones here over quarantine?
Definitely Step Brothers. You know, it doesn't matter how many times you watch that; it's always going to give you a pretty good laugh. So.
You don't say that. Uh, really, nothing off the Step Brothers quote? Wow. Okay. Yeah, the Step Brothers all-time great. Number two, I got roller coasters or carnival games when you go into the Frex.
The Carnival Games. My stomach doesn't sit with a
No.
coaster sometimes.
You know, is it a heights thing, a speed, or just like combination of all?
I don't even know what it is. Like I wasn't afraid of heights. It might be a speed thing. So we'll go with it, I guess.
I mean, you skate fast. It can't be a speed thing. And for carnival games, which ones are you playing? You shooting the squirt gun into the clown's mouth, the ring toss? You throwing the ball into the cans?
I go around just playing all the games there. So,
Biggest prize you ever won?
probably like a stuffed animal, I think.
Just lie and say it was big.
I play the games. I didn't say I was good at
I like the honesty. Fredericton guy, there's a pizza one. Jack's or Luna Pizza?
Luna pizzas.
Luna.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't say I haven't tried Jack's though.
Haven't tried Jack's. You got to get the gigantic pizza. It's massive. To get it through a door, you have to turn it sideways to get it through. It's incredible.
I might have to try that sometime soon. Then.
It's a university staple if you find yourself at UMB.
Yeah.
This is an easy one because I know which side you live on. Again, a Fredericton question: North side or the South side?
North side.
North side.
That's the place to be.
The place to be. I know the area you live as well in West Hilton. It's a nice area of town. Good golf course there as well. Outside of Fredericton here, do you prefer big cities or like a country getaway? If you were going to travel, do you want to go to New York City and see all the sights and sounds, or are you preferring to go to like a cabin for the week with friends and family?
Honestly, I'd say cabin, just like with friends or family. Like I find those are when you make the best memories.
I like that. Big gym guy here. You've been working out. Do you prefer the leg day or a good arms day? Are you a show muscle guy or you want to get the work in?
Definitely leg day.
Leg day.
Yeah, not a big upper body, guys.
Would you say hockey is obviously more geared towards a leg day, just for skating?
Yeah, for sure. Just all that skating. So
you want curls though, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned as well you have a pool in your backyard. Are you more of a dive into the pool guy or a big cannonball guy?
Neither. I'm more of like a back flip, front flip guy. Like
back. That wasn't even in my realm of. I'm 34. I'd die if I even thought about doing that. Actually, we'll edit this part out so Coach doesn't hear that you're doing backflips and front flips into a pool. You show up with two busted ankles, we'll know why.
Yeah, that wouldn't look well.
And last one here, live concerts or live sports? Which ones you prefer?
Definitely live concerts. So.
Yeah. What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Definitely like Cavendish. It's an unreal concert. So.
Is that like the country one?
Yeah, yeah.
But you said before this you're a rap music fan.
I know, but
You're just a music fan in general.
I'm a music fan in general. Like,
Usually those two don't go together, rap and country.
I make them work.
I'm
Whatever the mood is, like
I'm
it's
just
like
saying that because I hate country music. Scoring this now through all those, you definitely lose a point on Cavendish there at the end. We'll give you a strong 6 out of 8, whatever the percentage is there. I'm not a school guy, but it's not bad. That's not bad. Well, Dawson, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. Any last shout outs, or you have any gaming streams or anything coming up? Any appearances in Halifax, signings at the local Home Depot or anything that we should be aware about?
Streams, but can't wait to get back in St. John and see all the boys and all the fans for sure.
Fantastic. We can't wait to see you either. Take care.
Thank you, John. See ya.
That was a Dawson Stairs, number 67 of your St. John Sea Dogs. Guys, that's going to do it for tonight's show. We hope you enjoyed. As always, this will go up on YouTube within the next 24 hours or so. We'll clip out some of the best snippets. If you have any of your favorite moments from tonight's show, let us know in the comments, and we'll get that out on social. Make sure everyone shares in the enjoyment with you. Thank you again to our new head coach, Greg Gilbert, for joining us. Next week, like I mentioned, we're 99% nailed down Nathan Boldew, so hopefully he'll be here, and we'll get another current Sea Dog as well with a fun game to play with them. Thanks to everyone for tuning in and sharing all your comments in the chat. That's going to do it for our show. We'll be back next Monday, same time, 7:30 right here on Facebook Live.